I believe in Kateri's experience, her real experience of groping in darkness. And I believe that's what our people are also doing, because we have many, many experiences of extreme hurt, of oppression, of being put down. And sometimes our only way to defend ourselves is not a healthy way, but it is in a negative way. And somehow she was gifted to be able to be open, to be the go-between in those ways. And yet she had to leave. She had to walk away from that. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I believe that we as Native Catholic people really need to ask her guidance in our direction for this. I believe the possibility of our unity, of coming together in this one situation, may be the sort of paradigm for the coming together of our country. Because our country, it's not just between the various Native groups here in this area, but it's between the Native people in the province of Quebec, and it's between the province of Quebec and the rest of Canada. So it's the whole story of really, how do we find unity and still respect diversity? And I think Kateri can bring us some guidance in that. When we talk about Kateri Tekakwitha, I'm not sure I'm necessarily pronouncing her name as well as I could, because I'm not a Mohawk. And as I understand it in Mohawk, it's Kateri Tekakwitha. And Tekakwitha means the one who, or she who stumbles to find her way, or bumps into things to find her way. And that was because of the smallpox that had left her blind. That was the only name she had up until the time that she was baptized. And Gathali is the Mohawk way of saying Catherine, which was the Catholic name that she was given at baptism. And as I pray to Kateri, I think I just pray or talk to her as another person. I don't really recite prayers as such, but I ask her to give me guidance. And sometimes one of the ways that I would pray is to say that I am a companion of Kateri, and I walk in the darkness, and sometimes I stumble and fall, and yet I walk in the light of faith. And that's really what Kateri's story was, that she experienced that need to grope and find her way, and yet she always had that deep trust and love for Jesus in her. And that, I think, is my sense of prayer. I pray very much for all of our people, especially in the kinds of situations that we had when there was the crisis in Oka and Kanawaki and various other places in Canada, and asking her, Kateri, really be with our people and help us to be able to live in harmony and beauty and goodness with one another, in our relationships with God, with one another, with ourselves, and with all of creation. And somehow that was her gift in the middle of division in her own community, where there were those who saw the traditional way as the only way, and those who wanted to try to become Christians. And there was already that faith division, if you want. And that's the struggle in our church today as Native Catholics. It's, do we follow the traditional way, or can we bring those two ways together in our lives? And it is Kateri who will lead us in that way. And that prayer is a prayer for all of us, that we, as we reach into our tradition, to touch our tradition, to ask, where has God been speaking to us, and where does God speak to us in this tradition? How does He continue to bring His word to us in this? What fulfillment does Jesus bring to this? And I ask Kateri that she is the one who will guide us to search out the answers for those questions in our lives.
Kateri is a woman who, although she was only a Christian for a few short years, certainly embraced the Christianity and suffered because of it, and she died at the age of about 26. But the native people have always seen in her someone who was totally and completely dedicated to God, and one that was one of their own, who has officially been declared by the church as being in heaven with God, and therefore she's their intercessor there. And although she's not the only one, certainly there would be thousands of native people in heaven with the Lord, she is one that has been the focus of much attention, because they have always recognized her and her sufferings and her commitment to Christ and her commitment to the church as one both very much a part of their own people as well as very much a part of the Christians. So in this movement to bring together the Christians' beliefs and the church and the native culture, she becomes a very strong symbol and an important symbol.
Kateri was a real Indian and always remained a real Indian. Missionaries who wrote about her and who had known her personally would all said how she lived in an Indian way, how she worked like the Indians, how she prayed like an Indian. So I think there's no doubt that she was a real Indian Catholic. And this is why I think she has so much appeal for the Indians, because she was herself, her identity was being an Indian and being true to her identity. And I guess she never changed that. Even though she came close, not too close to the white people, she only met missionaries actually, except for 2 or 3 times she went to Montreal and met some nuns who didn't even speak Mohawk dialect. So she could not confer with these people, but she met these people, but never tried to imitate them. She was inspired, though, by some nuns in Montreal to form a community of Mohawk nuns. But I guess in her mind it was to make them Indian nuns, not foreign type of nuns. But even then, even though she was a real Indian, she's appealing to all the white people also, because she's a saint. Saints have no race and they have no color. Kateri is a saint for the whole world, and everybody loves her, and everybody falls in love with her so fast.
To me, she is a saint already, but we've been waiting a long time for this miracle, might as well say miracle. It's been so long, and waiting for her to become a saint. But to us, she is already a saint.
Personally, I didn't know about Kateri until I came east. I didn't know about her. I didn't know very much about her at all. But it was something that I discovered through other Native people about their devotion and their belief in Kateri as a woman of faith, a woman of vision, as a woman who had in her life such a heart that was open to Jesus, to Christ in her life as a Native woman, that it was something that she carried and that had an effect not only in her life but in among her people. And the vision she had was something that turned something that was turned memories that were too painful to carry into something beautiful. And perhaps, if anything, the Native religious today in Kateri in particular stands out as a person who represents or who holds, is that visionary, that vision keeper of a Native church, of a church that is Native and that is Christian.
As we welcome more and more pilgrims and visitors to the mission, we find it very surprising how so many know so little about Blessed Kateri Tekakwitha. and even among a lot of our brothers and sisters in the West. But strangely, Kateri is not only in Kahnawake. The spirit of Kateri lives on, and so much so that as we gather together, our brothers and sisters throughout the West, it is through her spirit that they're coming together and understanding it is Kateri who is helping them find themselves and find themselves, bring themselves back from the desert, so to speak. Where have they been all these years? I too had great difficulty in my life, and little did I realize how I was being formed in a small way to spread her name.
And it's another thing, so many people also come to the shrine. Some people make a point to come once a year, and some come from very, very far away. From California, from New Mexico, from New Brunswick, from Nova Scotia. They want to see the shrine of Kateri, they want to pray Kateri for their own sake and for the sake of the whole of Canada and the whole world. Now I meet people from France, and right here in Mission here, we meet all kinds of pilgrims from all over the world. And when you ask them how they knew Kateri, well, we read a little something about her, and we think she's just wonderful, so we want to know her better. So they fall in love with Kateri right away. The white people and the Asians and the Europeans, and all kinds of people. So she means a lot also to the white people. And also her respect of the creation, her adoration of the Creator, first of all, and then she respected also what God put in this world. And this is why she's often called the patron saint of ecology. So she cared for environment, really, and in this way also she's a real Indian. And Indians also look up to her because of that. And foreigners also. Last year during the conflict here in Kahnawake, many people decided on the Indian side because of that. Respect for environment. So, and I think this is a lesson given to us by the Indians all the time.
Here in Kahnawake, times were difficult in the last 2 years. How our people were torn apart by this crisis, beginning with the summer of 1990. How our people were divided, unable to come into the village because of the blockade. And I have to give all credit to the intercession of Blessed Kateri, how no lives were lost in direct confrontation, and how common sense prevailed, even with the heavy presence of the army that we had, and the SQ. But I guess it is only through her intercession that this all came to a peaceful solution.
And during the crisis this summer, Ron and I were going out to one of the dioceses, to a meeting, and we were afraid that we wouldn't be able to get back, But we went anyway. And on the way out, we had medals and we had pictures of Kateri, Blessed Kateri. So we distribute some of the medals and some of the holy pictures to the soldiers and even to the SQ, and they took them. I was very surprised, I thought maybe they'd throw them away or throw them back on the ground, but no, they took them and they kept them. And I firmly believe that this is what helped us in our crisis. And I don't like talking about this, but crisis really hurt a lot of people. But Kateri was there to help us. I know she was. It would have been a lot worse if we hadn't prayed to her. And I think by praying to her, this got us through.
I think that she means a lot to both sides. So Kateri, seeing that she's accepted by everybody, I would think that she would help to stop this, this conflict and bring real peace and harmony between the two sides.
It seems as we're trying to heal ourselves in the community. And as we go out as a ministry family, going out to give testimony, witnessing to the non-native communities, trying to begin that healing process, it seems as we take 2 steps ahead and we are put back 1 step. In no way is the media collaborating with us. Rather than look for the positive things that are happening, they only seem to pick up on anything negative. And it's not very encouraging. We are very moved as the Spirit of God is calling us to go and witness to our brothers and sisters on the exterior, our brothers and sisters of the from the 4 directions and the 4 colors. It is very moving, and yet it's very frightening. How will we be received? Will they criticize us? Will we be laughed at? And yet at the same time, I guess, praying and asking for Kateri to help us, intercede for the Holy Spirit to be with us. And I guess it is there that we can understand it is not for us who we're working, but it's for God, our Creator. And I think it's there that we do find the strength to carry on.
Kateri, when you look at her life, it was such an ordinary life. It wasn't some great, marvelous preacher or some professional person. She just lived her ordinary, everyday life in an extraordinary way of holiness. And that ordinary life was dedicated, it was sacrificed for her own people, that they would be able to come to recognize the God who is among us. And for me, that's very important for our people to see. It's an interesting thought to reflect on, that it's right here in Kahnawake that the news is always talking about what's happening here in Kahnawake from the perspective of the troubles in the Native world, the troubles in this Native community, and yet there isn't any publicity about Kateri herself, who also walked this ground. And it's like, wherever the Spirit of God, the Spirit of goodness is, the evil one is also going to try to get in there. The evil one is one who wants to see that division, and it would really be the power of miracle, of Kateri's presence again, that could somehow bring together that unity in this area. It seems like it's impossible without her intercession, that her spirit must walk again in this community, in this land, and bring about the healing that's needed among our peoples. The Native people themselves speak very strongly all over in different areas of the country of Kateri walking with us. Their experience is very much that of someone who is very real and present to us in our lives. And it seems almost ironic, but sometimes it's like they look for her among the people. They're looking for her. They see a spirit that's being born again in the people, and it's Kateri.